Hey everyone, I hope you all are doing good. So, in today's video, we're going to continue the previous conversation that we had around Sterling Connect Direct, right? So, I introduced briefly about the importance of Sterling Connect Direct and which specific customers, right, or domain that you would practically see Connect Direct installations, right, and requirements, mostly like in the financial banking sector that I have seen based on my experience, sometime in healthcare as well, but predominantly like in the banking sector where you have to transfer huge amount of files, right, at a lower latency with uh, lot of security, right? So in those kind of scenarios, you would need Sterling Connect Direct, right? Because it has certain features that typically helps, right, resuming any kind of intermittent file transfer issues and all that. And I explained briefly about those, right? Now, in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the steps, right, that are involved in installing Connect Direct, right? Now, in Connect Direct, right, earlier, if you see this document, it was called Network Data Mover, right? And it was, if you see, was originally or initially developed with the motivation of supporting the mainframe world, right? To transfer files in a more secure zone, right? Let's say different banks have their own mainframe servers, and they want to do file transfers, right, between uh, each other. But with definitely the growing demand of this product, right, which gives you a lot of rigorous security and also shorter processing windows, it also started being utilized in other sectors where you had mainframe servers like or so I have seen even in retail sector, right? Now in this video, right, what I've considered is I've considered Sterling Connect Direct 4.6 version, and to install the Sterling Connect Direct 4.6 version, I've just listed the high level prerequisite, like what kind of servers that you would need with the service pack. I've listed that, as well as definitely it needs a SQL server, right? So what kind of SQL server that you would typically need, and in addition to that, you would need a static IP, right? That is assigned and that doesn't change even if the server restarts and all that, which needs to be configured and installed. Now, when you open the connected package, right, the installation package, there is a directory that you would see, which is the server and requester. And when you open that, within the directory, okay, there's a setup file. It typically starts the installer, right? Similar to what you have seen over here, like a typical um, any kind of Windows program that you would install in your local machine, right? Now, uh, in the second page, when you click next, it asks what kind of setup that you would need. Is it the typical programs or the custom? Typically for your own like testing purpose or POC, or if you're doing something within your own local system and you're installing, we would rather select the typical, right? We don't want to do more customization. But when it is a production grade installation, you're installing on some customer production servers, right? There's some customizations, right, that needs to go, and we'll cover those, right, in few more slides, right? So we select the custom and then we click on next. In the next page, if you will see, there are a couple of options, right? That is auto selected, which is like under the server, right? There's like Secure Plus and SNMP extension agent, and then there's a requester part. Typically, we right click on the secure option, and then we select install on the local drive, right? And the screen of the selection shows as below. Like when you click on that, right, it the uncheck marks gets checked on, and you will typically install a secure plus, right? And then in the next page, we again go ahead and instead of selecting the default settings, we select the custom settings. So if I go back, first we install under the server the secure plus option, right? And then in the custom section, what we do is we provide the machine name. So the machine name, if you click on any Windows system, right, if you click on My PC and select the property, every machine gets a default machine name, right? You can rename as well. So we select that machine name on which you are installing the Sterling Connect IDE, and then on the next page, if you will see, it asks for a database server, right? That has to be installed and running before continuing. So definitely, as a prerequisite, as I mentioned, you need to install either the Microsoft SQL Server or MySQL Server, right? One is open source, the other one is Microsoft proprietary, right? Now, for our case, we select Microsoft SQL Server because the Microsoft SQL Server was installed in that box, and then we click next. In the next page, here is where we need to give the database connection strings or settings, right? That the Sterling Connect Direct product would use to connect to the database, right? So we select the SQL Server as local. That means it is running on the same system where you are installing the Connect IDE, and then uh, there are a couple of options, right? How you want to connect to the how you want the application, right? The Sterling Connected application to connect to the database server. There are like the first option is Windows authentication credentials of the current user, or the server authentication user using the user ID password. So for us, okay, I selected the server authentication using the user ID and password, and we give the database user ID password that is configured on the database side instead of the Windows default authentication, right? The user that you have logged in to your database, sorry, to your laptop. And then as I mentioned, we give the password, and also if you look into here, okay, in addition to the local host name, we also add one suffix which is /SQL Express, right? So please bear in mind that. And then once you have given the user ID and the password, we click next, and then click next, and then typically select everything which is by default. We don't change anything over here. It has a couple of IP addresses like the node to node and the user interface running on different port, right? Leave the configuration as default, and then click next. There's no change over here. It's just automatically you click next, and then click next, where it gives, okay, this is the node name, the IP address of that local host, and the port number, right? And then click next. No changes here. Click next. And over here, select the default NT network broadcast instead of SMTP. Click next. And then once you click next, it's going to start installing the IBM Sterling Connect Direct, right? It's that simple. It's not so complicated like we had for Sterling B2B integrator, right? Now, once you have installed, right, after the installation, you can launch the requester after installation, right? And what it does is that, like, when you go to programs and you click on requester on the Connect Direct, you can open the requester client, and then the next thing what we do is, like, after the installation is where we do the configuration, right, of the P node and the S node, right, the netmap connections between the P node and the S node. Just bear in mind that to use Sterling Connect, right, in any project, right, or to do file transfers, like for example, in Sterling Integrator, right? Sterling Integrator, let's say if you want to do a SFTP file transfer, right? Typically, if you have Sterling Connect for your customer that is running and you're managing that, Sterling Connect act as an SFTP server as well as a client, right? Now, if there's an external partner, they can also have a Sterling Connect, a Sterling Integrator SFTP server, or they can use any other SFTP client or SFTP server like WinSAP, FileZilla, or any other MFT tools. They don't necessarily has to have the same product, the Sterling Integrator, on their side to do the SFTP transfer, right? And this is same for other like as to transfers and all that. You don't necessarily need the same product on the other side of the connection. Whereas in Sterling Connector, bear in mind that to do file transfers, right? As I mentioned, it uses a proprietary protocol, right, which has never been hacked, right? You definitely would need a connect direct node or connect direct installation both on the receiver as well as the sender side. That's the bare minimum. You cannot have a different product, right? Uh, to be able to use connect direct. So that's definitely the need. Okay, that if you want to do, if you agree with using Sterling Connect Direct, okay, both the sender and the requester would need to have the Sterling Connect Direct installation. Otherwise, this won't work, right? Now, the next thing is like the configuration of the nodes, users, net maps, and the connections, right, as an admin. I'm not going to cover that today. I'm going to keep it for next week, right, so that you have some time to digest what we went through, like the installation steps. And please let me know if you have any comments or any questions around the topic that we went through. With that, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and I'm gonna end my video for today. I hope it was useful to all of you and feel free to reach out if you have any further questions. Thank you and happy Janmashtami to all of you.